Hello. Oh, it says that we've been live for a minute and a half, so maybe some of that was, who knows what happened.
I only see 12 seconds on mine, so we're good. So
weird.
Who knows? All right.
So,
hello and welcome to Politically Incorrect Knitters. My name is Ann Pinkova, joined by the lovely and recovering Deplorable Knitter.
Hi guys, I'm in my pillow fort, just hanging out, Sorry for the bad lighting and camera and stuff, but I'm in my bed and that's what you get, so. And whoever keeps telling us to wear lipstick, today is not a lipstick day, all right? I took a shower and that was about all I can do. Oh, and I braided my hair too, so. That's what you get.
But get achievement points for that today.
Yeah. No, I did a lot today. I made one of the kids help me unload the dishwasher, then we reloaded it, and I folded a load of laundry. So that's what you get.
There you go.
But even though I am not up to snuff and we have pre-recorded episodes for the next 2 weeks, just because, we weren't sure how I was going to be feeling. But the Kristy Glass thing happened, and Anna and I kept talking. I'm like, we have to talk about this. We can't not go into it, because it's kind of like bizarre, right? I mean, it's not that bizarre for the knitting community, but it's bizarre.
It's, as one of our primary functions being a knitting news show, this is kind of big knitting news.
It is, and that's why, like I said, from my pillow fort here in upstate New York, coming to you live. But so the gist of it, in case you guys have not seen it, because I didn't know what was happening. Once again, all the players generally have me blocked, so it took me some time to find what was going on. But Kristy Glass, who is a knitfluencer, I don't know if people made her that or if she made herself that. I'm not entirely certain how that went down. But
well, from what I understand, and I don't pay attention to the big names in the knitting world as much as other people, so I'll straight up admit that. But she has, that she had a fairly prominent interview show with different knitters, that's been on for many years. So that's, a pretty substantial. She's well known in that way.
Yeah, Elizabeth says they've been gunning for here. Let me see if I can highlight her. They've been gunning for her since everything happened, and she's kind of slipped through their fingers. So this time they finally got her. But Kristy Glass was canceled this weekend, and like Ann says, she has a pretty prominent YouTube channel. And honestly, I tried to watch it a couple times, and I just not my cup of tea. So I went away from that channel. And I want to point that out, that neither Ann nor I followed her. Neither of us really particularly cared about what she was doing. Because one of the things that everybody's saying is, oh, all you white people are coming out in support of her. I really am ambivalent about her. I don't think that the mob mentality is good either way, but I don't care. Like, we're telling you what's going on because we talk about knitting and news, not because we're like, oh, Kristy Glass, we have to save her. Whatever. Like, not to be mean, but
this is happening to her is terrible. But we don't know her personally, so this is kind of and she is a part of, kind of the woke knitting crowd. And I know that there are some people who, again, they like her because they like her interviews or they think she's fun and quirky, and that's totally cool. Like, it's not like, well, we don't like her, but we're going to talk about this. But, it's like, okay, we don't really know this gal, but this is happening.
Yeah. And I'm just saying, like, she's not my cup of tea. That doesn't mean that she's not somebody else's, and I don't care if you like her. I don't care if you don't like her. We're just talking about what's going on. So she got canceled this weekend because, drum roll, she asked where Michelle Obama's knitting was in her article in Vogue Knitting.
Right.
That was the start of it.
Right. And just to rest on this a little bit.
Uh-oh.
I'm done. There we go. Sorry.
Okay.
So, but Michelle Obama has been basically on knitting press tour for a while now. That she's like, oh, I'm a knitter now, and I'm doing interviews, and I'm talking about this, and isn't this fun? And she did one video interview, and she talked about, like, oh well, I've knit a couple mittens, and they were very different sizes, and I've knit a lot of blankets and hats and scarves and whatever. And isn't this fun? But here's the thing: not only in the knitting, she didn't produce any knitting then, like she didn't show it, and she didn't wear any knitting on the cover of Vogue Knitting, which is kind of odd. Like you couldn't pop on a sweater or a hat or something, and there was no knitting in the article either. I've heard some people say, oh, well, there's a pandemic on. I'm sure she sent a press photo. But here's the thing, though, even if she sent a press photo, she's had wild parties with her husband for his birthday. So, like I'm not sure she's terribly worried. But even so, let's say, okay, she's worried. She sends a press photo to Vogue, and she couldn't send some of her knitting to Vogue, even if it's like, oh, well, it's my first knitting projects, and I'm not sure that you could still be like, well, you could have a funny photo holding the wrong size mittens, or you could Vogue Knitting. They can make your bad knitting look pretty, and you're just as clever. Everyone starts somewhere.
Right. And I'm not against Michelle Obama talking about knitting. I think that people who are into it and really want to do the craft, that's great. I don't have to agree with them or like them, but one of the excuses was, well, she does charity knitting. Dude, I do charity knitting. I take pictures of everything, because how am I going to remember that I sent 8 hats here or 5 hats there? Or I like to kind of have an idea of what I've done. And so it's not out of the question to say, hey, couldn't you send a picture of the hats that you've donated? Or couldn't you something like that?
Yeah, and definitely if she like, let's say she had a chunky yarn pink scarf and it's just garter stitch, you think people wouldn't be like, wow, that's cool, Michelle Obama is doing them? It'd start a trend. It is Vogue.
Right. And yeah, that's the thing so apparently Vogue Knitting's been around for, I don't know, 30 or 40 years, and they've only had 10 Black people on the cover. So a lot of the issues started because people are saying, well, it's so hard for a Black woman to get on the cover as it is, and then you criticize her. And okay, kind of valid point. Like, but where's her knitting? It's a freaking knitting magazine. That's a press headshot from her book. It's not maybe not from her book, but you know what I mean? It's a very generic press shot. Come on, you don't have a single thing you could show. You couldn't have sent a picture of, like Anne said, holding the wonky mittens for inside the article. Like, come on. And how do we even know she's knitting? Nobody's seen it.
Right. And another thing too, that someone else said, because she said that she's part of online knit groups where they don't know it's her, and people have helped her with her knitting. So maybe she's not showing off her knitting to out herself. And again, it's Vogue. They could change the colors on the photo.
Or, not to be like totally lame, but if you started out with a navy blue garter stitch hat or a navy blue stockinette stitch hat, how many people have made those? Yeah. I'm pretty sure that people wouldn't be like, oh my God, I know who Michelle Obama is. Like, yeah, we all do different things, but I could probably show a picture of one of my generic hats and be like, hey, Anne knit this. Nobody would know. Like, whatever. So that's kind of lame too, but whatever.
Yeah. And again, it's like, okay, so like, are we questioning if she knits? I'm like, I haven't seen them. It's not as if they don't exist, or maybe they don't, because this was also the woman who made a big deal about having a White House garden. And then in the day before, the plants were small. And the next day, magically, they were big and out of season and huge, like massive cauliflower heads. You're like, wow, White House has awesome soil.
Like, well, that's why it's the White House. It's magic.
I know. And again, I'm sure Barack is walking around with with the mismatched gloves and everything. But I said, it's if literally anybody else, again, did a press tour as a knitter and then didn't show any knitting, it would be ridiculous. And it's like, okay, and where's your stuff? It's, again, it would start a fashion trend. People want to see it. It's a knitting magazine. People are excited for you.
Anybody who's knitting has done the thing with the mittens that are wrong. My husband has a pair. We weren't even married yet. One ends here, the other one ends like here. He still wears them when he works outside. They're fingerless gloves, so I made them for him so he can, like, when he has to go outside and do something with his hands, he's still warm. Mm-hmm. Everybody has that story. Nobody is going to be like, oh, well, she's a sucky nut. No, we're going to be like, hey, I've done that too. Cool. Right? Like, come on. So that's what started the whole thing with Kristy Glass. Mm-hmm. But after she said it, then people started to attack her, which is, the usual MO. You've done something we don't like, so now instead of being like human, we're going to like lose our shit and just be insane. And so they started coming out of the woodwork, and a lot of people were saying they got bad vibes from her. And honestly, I understand, because that's kind of why I didn't like her. Something about her made me, ugh. I don't care for her style. That's fine. We all feel that way about something, and that's not a problem. But then there were stories about she was charging black and brown makers to be on her show or to put their logo on her website, and she wasn't charging white makers. Don't know if that's true or not. A lot of people are saying it, so I would err on it could have happened. But
right at the same time, I'm not exactly sure who, but that they had a big post about how awful she is, and then they took it down later. Mm-hmm. So, and also I find it a little incredible that with all of the different cancel culturing things that have happened in the knitting world, that only comes out after you criticize Michelle Obama. I would think that is the larger offense, and you would have talked about it earlier.
True, but I mean, I get what you're saying, but also there's the stuff that happens where, like, it happened to me. I don't know if it's happened to other people. I don't want to cause a fuss. I'm new in the community. So I understand why people maybe didn't say it. Maybe, you know what I mean? And so I don't know either way. I haven't decided whether or not I believe it, but either they all got the talking points and they all have the same story, or maybe maybe it's not the whole truth. Maybe what they're saying is not exactly how it went down, but they're playing it up. That's probably more likely, is this, because right. I heard a white person say that she was interviewed, but she was also encouraged to sponsor a knit workshop or donate items, or so, it sounds like a thing that she did. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
But so that happened, and so now the knitting community has absolutely lost its freaking mind.
Well, should also mention, okay, so Kristy Glass, this whole thing happens. She took her Instagram and took it to private, and then deleted it for a while. It's back now, but then she took her website is down, and also I saw one. It was a screen cap from her Patreon, basically blasting her again. Her Patreon was, saying like, this whole thing happened, so I'm going to cancel the Patreon before the money goes out at the end of the month because I'm not comfortable with, that. Yep. And it was an interesting turn of phrase. It was that she's not comfortable. I'm trying to remember. It's like she's not comfortable being wrong in the public eye, which is on one hand quite a statement about yourself, but also these gals vicious. Like, it's not as if there's people out there saying like, oh well, basically that she should stand there and let people just pelt you, because what is she doing? Walking away and leaving and not being a part of the conversation. It's like the only conversation is you're wrong, and she's apologized and they won't accept it.
Right. And that's the other thing that happened with this. Like, she apologized and people were like, oh, thank you for what we've said it before, don't apologize. They're just going to find a reason that it's not good enough. But, you know, and then there was this huge thing about like, oh, you can't, white people can't accept another white person's apology because they don't understand the hurt that was caused. And I'm like, this is the problem with the whole thing, okay? Who the hell are you to say when somebody's sincere, what their intent is, or anything else? So I have this thing that was posted by 716 Knits. It says, believe black women. And then the caption says, period. So it's kind of like that Me Too movement where you have to believe the women all the time, unless they don't fit your narrative. And that's kind of the thing. Like, okay, so now we don't believe all women. We're just going to believe black women. And we can't, if the white woman says something, then a black person contradicts them, then screw you, the white person's wrong no matter what. Like that reasoning doesn't make any sense. It's the whole circular, like, oh, you're wrong is just crazy. Sorry.
No,
but there's true. Just, and all of these things about there are so many yarn dyers that I would have loved to buy from at some point in my life. I mean, I don't have a huge yarn budget, but you know, Lola Bean has fantastic colors. There's a ton of other dyers that when I see their pictures, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And then I realize I can't buy from them because they hate me. And it didn't have to turn into this. I don't understand what's the point of making a huge divide?
Right. And a huge we talked about this when we talked to Tabitha from Murder Knits, that it is raising profit off controversy, that more people will buy your stuff and send your money if you are the good, virtuous one. And this is, Black Lives Matter has a new promo thing about Blackmas, that you have to buy from people by the color of their skin. And I'm like, that's heckin' racist.
That makes, yeah.
And like when you're raising money off racial divide, you're saying that this is the virtuous yarn or this is the virtuous product. And it's like, I just like your product because it's good. Shouldn't it be able to stand on its own merit?
Yeah, people are saying that its business has been slow, so they're doing this to boost themselves. And also, since this has happened, I've seen a bunch of people saying like, "Oh, I updated my link tree. There's now like a donate to me button and stuff." I love money. Can I put a donate to me button on my site? Because like I'm not working for 6 weeks. Like, come on. Like I don't understand. Like, where the heck do you get off even saying this stuff? Do you know what I mean? Like,
right. Well, I don't know. I don't, like send me money because it's me. It's like, I don't.
I'm pretty fantastic. So why can't I do that to my thing? Not that I would ever do it, because I want to earn money based on the merit of my patterns and our podcasts and things. But like, if I were to just go throw a link up there, people would be like, oh, can you believe that she did that? Like, what the nerve? She's so privileged. Whatever. What makes it different?
It's like the do the work post and, don't expect people to just educate you and, not be paid for it. And I'm just like.
There's somebody that every month at the end of the month posts, rent is due. So pay for Black and brown people's rent. We pay a mortgage. Like, well, I don't, I don't know, man. It's just, the stuff is just nuts to me. I don't know. Yeah, Mrs. Brown Bags had a post that said, all it says is buy from Black women. Mm-hmm. Buy from a Black woman. That's all it says. And, make sure you're intentional with your shopping and buy from a Black-owned business. How about make sure you're intentional with your shopping and you buy made in the USA, or you buy handmade products to support a small business, or Like, why does it have to be a Black business?
Right.
Most people who have small businesses are working hard.
If it's her, if it's her husband that owns it and she just works there, does that count?
I don't know. Probably not.
Yikes.
It probably actually depends on how woke they are.
Yeah.
Because if they're the correct type of woke, then I'm sure it's fine. If they're not, if she submits to her husband and allows him to run the business, then probably not.
If they have at any time in their life worn a red baseball cap, regardless of what it says on it, then.
So if you were a Cardinals fan back in the day, then you're out. Sorry.
Yeah, but the photo was only of you from the behind. So, it doesn't matter if it was in the 90s, man. It's nope. But anyways, sorry.
Yeah, no. So in a nutshell, that's what happened. Kristy Glass said, hey, why doesn't Michelle Obama have any knitting? People lost their ever-loving minds, and then Kristy Glass was the worst person that has ever existed on the face of the planet.
Right. And Michelle Obama, though a part of a knitting community, and I understand new knitting community, maybe, she doesn't pay attention to the big names and the controversies, has not stood up for this woman. She can be totally ripped end to end, and Michelle's like,
well, she's too fancy for that. And I still have questions about her knitting since nobody's ever seen it.
Right.
I don't know. Anne wants to ask about.
Exactly. I want hashtag where's her knitting. And, where's her knitting as in physical pictures and where's her knitting as in on the needles. Like there's.
She's rich and famous enough that she could get somebody to knit things for her. Okay, now let me take a picture of it holding it.
Right? That's true.
All right, now finish it so I can show it off.
Basic Michelle Obama knitting tutorials. That's.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways.
Show us the knitting, yeah. And people are saying that the Grocery Girls are going to get canceled next. They have absolutely capitalized on the whole. They're another group I couldn't get into. Anne and I have talked about it a lot, but I have trouble watching knitting podcasts, not because I don't enjoy them, but there's a lot of nonsense in them. Like, okay, so we have some nonsense, but I think we keep it pretty short, and then we talk news, and it's less nonsense. I just can't get behind the talking just to talk. I got other things to do. I don't know. Although I guess I could do it now while I'm in bed and I can't do anything. But I don't know. The whole thing is just bizarre.
It's bizarre. And people, again, are very vicious. As I believe someone said in the live comments, that they're very, that people are very reluctant to say what actually started it. That is kind of she made a horrible comment about the BIPOC group. And it's like, no, you got to specify specifically, I don't know. It's a lot of hearsay. It's a lot of speculation. One lady talked about how, this whole thing hurt because I always thought that she behaved kindly towards me, but it's all a lie because what she said about Michelle Obama. Or again, this thing about some people paying to be on the knitting podcast and others not. Again, it's not substantiated right now. So I'm kind of I'm not saying that it's impossible, but I'm saying that it's kind of it's a little weird.
Yeah. Well, Athena has, I heard stories about these DMs. So Lola did a live and she blasted Kristy, and everybody was blasting her for putting out the DMs between her and Lola. But Athena said she saw them and that there was nothing crazy in it. So a lot of it, I think, is just making the narrative what they want it to be, Yeah. Oh, yeah. Elizabeth's good point here, that there's no receipts, there's no screenshots of what caused the whole nonsense. Isn't that funny how that happens?
Yeah, you would think that those would be the first things to be posted around by everybody.
Yeah, because if she said something that was that terrible, dude, you don't even have to talk about it. You can be like, look at what Kristy Glass said, and everybody would be going, oh my god. That's all you need.
Leave it.
Let her dig her own grave, people, if it's that bad. You don't have to do it for her. I'm glad we got on here and talked to everybody, because there's some things I didn't think about, like, maybe business was slow. Maybe it was more of a ploy, and they have been gunning for her. I mean, I know that.
And somebody was talking. Somebody made a joke a couple of weeks ago before this controversy that that you need some new big controversy because she's tired of scrolling back and seeing if they posted a black square or not. Well,
yeah.
And I do that too. A renewing of the Instagram knitting wars. Yes.
Yeah, and it's terrible, but I posted last night on my Instagram that I made this little baby hat, and I found the pattern. It was a free online pattern. I had to go on Instagram and check her, and her account wasn't that old, so there was no black squares and there was no Ravelry. But yeah, I've gotten tired of having to scroll too. So now we can see where they stand on Kristy Glass, and then they do this about once a year, once every year and a half. So at least we can
right. And here's the thing, though. I should say I'm happy to play with anyone who will play with me, even if we disagree. It would take something fairly severe for me to be like, not, So it's like, if someone is really big into the whole Kristy Glass thing and disliking people who barely have a comment about Michelle Obama, I have some comments. Like, we're not going to get along. I'm sorry. And hopefully, if we were in person, we could still be pals, even if I make fun of Michelle Obama. But it's the old one of the comments, don't let a good crisis go to waste. Obama era. It's the warm, fuzzy feeling again that if you criticize the Obamas slightly, you're a horrible person, even though they do stupid crap all the time.
Yeah, and one of the comments I saw in all of this hoopla was, Michelle Obama is the most hated first lady. We should support her no matter what. And I'm going, doesn't anybody remember the Trump years? Dude, Melania was a supermodel and they refused to put her on Vogue. Come on.
Yeah, and sorry, both of us are getting distracted by the comments.
I know, there's so many comments going, it's hard to keep up.
I know. Tabitha's in the chat. Tabitha always has the best stir, though I know that's not necessarily why she's here. But anyways, but yeah, with Michelle Obama, you're a public figure, you're on knitting tour, I don't get it. And, you're out there with your husband throwing lavish parties, and your husband who puts in really terrible dialogue for you in his second autobiography about himself. You gotta choose. Oh, it's bad. But anyways, I think unless you had anything else you want.
Well, no, but Morgan hit the nail on the head. Why would they feature someone with no knitting content? They're a knitting magazine, people. I don't know, man.
And it's almost as if, you just want your face in Vogue again, but you're a little too proud for Vogue knitting. Again, if there had been a scarf or a hat or something, it would be obvious that it's Vogue knitting, but it's I just, the article isn't about that at all. It's sort of I keep my face in the media and not, I'm really a part of the knitting community. So
yeah, I don't know, man. But yeah, so that's the gist of what's happened with Kristy Glass. In case you missed it, we wanted to make sure to bring it to you. And now that we've done this, I'm ready for a nap, because this is about as much activity. This is pretty exciting for me, I won't lie. So God love. I didn't read the article, so they had a child. Sorry, Elizabeth's comment. distracted me for a second. The sweet child interviewing her, but why didn't they have a grown knitter interview her? Is that true that a kid did it?
I think it was somebody younger, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm. It's just interesting. It's man, the stuff that they can twist is you know. So a 14-year-old, apparently a 14-year-old did it. So not that that's not cool for the 14-year-old, but if you're gonna have a knitting article in a knitting magazine, I agree. Probably a knitter.
Yeah, that is but
yeah, your internet's not liking us today, Anne. So, like I said, it's time for me anyway because I'm gonna go take a nap. I have to do a craft with my kids today because it's their grandma's birthday tomorrow, so I have to rest up. But yeah, so guys, thanks for joining us. I hope we cleared it up. Thanks for all your insight because I didn't know a lot of stuff that you guys knew, so that was awesome. And this week, our interview is with Amy from Two Sisters and Some Yarn.
Mm-hmm.
And next week we have Nitty McPurley. So make sure you guys check those out. And that's all I know.
And we'll see you then.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Bye.